Hi, I'm Kate Hahn with TV Guide Magazine and TV Insider. Welcome to The Buzz on Yellow Jackets, episode 5. We are speaking with Courtney Eaton, who plays Lottie, and what an episode she had. It really sets up a lot for what's coming in the next episode with Shauna's giving birth. But tell me about Shauna and Lottie in this episode. Their dislike for each other, or at least Shauna's for Lottie, just starts to be building.
It starts to be building. Yeah, Lottie is lingering, to say the least. She's kind of attached to herself as a protector of maybe Shauna, but mostly her baby. I think she's got this idea in her head about what this baby can do for them, and what the wilderness is telling her, and what's going on in her brain. But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, what does she think the baby can do for them?
That is a question that the writers wouldn't answer for me, because going into episode 5, there were certain scenes that I was like, should I know where this is going so I can make a choice and play it a certain way? And they were like, no, we won't tell you anything other than Lottie's very interested in the baby. So I kind of just took it from the viewpoint of, yeah, Lottie becoming the protector. I don't know if she necessarily cares about Shauna. She does, but I think her overall interest is the baby.
Well, when in that scene where she's listening to Shauna's belly and Shauna wakes up and Sophie pushes you down, was that scripted, or did that happen in the moment when you were shooting?
It was scripted in a way, but I don't think it was scripted to be as physical. And Sophie and I love kind of diving into that world of, I mean, they're athletes, so they're physical, and yeah, so I think it came, we went a little further with it, but it felt right in the moment.
Yeah, it did. It did. It's really telling that story of how these two girls are just coming apart. Well, there's a lot of debate among fans on, is Lottie, does she have a mental illness that's causing her to have all these visions, or is she actually connected to the wilderness? It seems more and more as the show goes on that she has an undeniable connection to the wilderness. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a hard question. I get it a lot, and I mean, talking to Bart and Ashley before we started shooting the pilot, it was a conversation just around like the medication she was taking, and I specifically didn't want her to be the villain if she did have mental illness. I just wanted to be really careful with that. I love that she, walks this fine line of the wilderness. Is it the trauma? Is it something that she had going on before she even found herself in the wilderness? So I kind of like keeping it a little ambiguous for people to kind of make up their own minds, because I think if it leans one way or the other too much, it kind of ruins the magic that is Lottie.
Well, she's certainly gaining a following in the wilderness. The girls believe she has this spiritual connection. How does she feel about that? Is that a burden?
I think, at the beginning of season 2, we kind of find her in this new leadership role. And I do think she has put herself there slightly intentionally, but I don't think she realized how far it would go. I think she's starting to feel the pressure of every situation where everyone looks at her for direction and guidance. And I think later in the season, you kind of see how that starts crumbling.
Well, you did mention the word villain earlier. Are we going to start seeing a darker side of Lottie?
I never see Lottie as villain. I think she minus the hunting Travis down, but I think she was in a different mind space then. But I do think this season you'll see a darker side of Lottie, but maybe not in the way that people think. She's not doing well.
She's not doing well. Yeah, well, you mentioned Travis, and they have a very complicated relationship. We see him having a sex fantasy about her when he's with Nat, but she's also put her hands on his heart and calmed him out of an anxiety attack. So talk about her connection to Travis and how that will play out.
Yeah, I think that it's like any of the girls and any of the team out there. I think everyone's kind of reaching whatever they can. And right now, Travis is finding comfort in the wilderness / religious aspect that Lottie brings. I also think Lottie has this caring and mothering, people might disagree with me on this, but this mothering aspect toward about her. And I think even in that sex scene, it's not even really about, I don't think, Travis fantasizing about Lottie. I think it's the trauma coming through and him disassociating and being so confused that she's popping up because she is giving this strength to him and this purpose right now. So I think that's kind of the journey they're on right now.
Well, people have just taken to calling Lottie the Antler Queen by default. That's what they're calling her. Although Jonathan Lisco, I've never heard him confirm, who's the showrunner, I've never heard him confirm that as fact. And this episode kind of added a new twist to that mystery. At the end of the episode, we saw in the adult world, we saw this vision that Nat had when Lottie hypnotized her of, we didn't survive the plane crash. This antlered creature came walking down the aisle of the plane. Is Lottie the antler? And then we see Lottie see the shadow behind her of antlers, but we're not sure, are they on her head or is there a figure standing behind her? Can you confirm she is the Antler Queen at this point?
I cannot confirm or deny. I think the symbol of the Antler Queen is really interesting, and I do think it might be whoever is crowned permanently. I don't even know if there will be a permanent Antler Queen. I think with the hierarchy of the group, it's ever shifting. And it might be Lottie's for a moment and it might be someone else's later down the road. So yeah, I don't know. We all kind of want to know who the Antler Queen is too. Because yeah, there's some things that happen later in the season.
And have they told you? Have the writers told you? It sounds like they keep a lot secret from you all.
They don't tell us anything. We don't know. We find out when we get the scripts and we don't know much more than that.
Okay. Another big development in this episode was Misty losing her friend Crystal. And, you know, she's made an excuse that she's lost her in the blizzard. I don't think the girls are going to fall for that for very long.
Yeah, I don't think Lottie falls for it. There are a few conversations either in that episode or in episode 6 where I think Lottie is maybe catching on. Yeah, Misty's a hard one to trust.
We also have this great scene again towards the end where Shauna and Ty are out in the blizzard. They're completely lost. And it seems like the girls are all on the front porch of the cabin led by Lottie, communicating with them, sending these messages. Ty even seems to be repeating back the words that they're saying. They're connected here, right?
I mean, I think it is in a way that the group, it fluctuates so much with everyone's obviously having a different day during an episode and how they're feeling and different things going on. And I think that is one of the moments that they're all on the same page and we all kind of need to start coming together for the baby. So I think that was a really cool way of the writers connecting us all together and bringing in like the aspect of the wilderness because we have some fun and heavy things to come.
Yes, yeah. Look, it's going to top what we've already seen, and that's hard for us to believe, right?
I know. I was just at Paley Fest last night, and the reaction to episode 2, everyone's like, "How is this just episode 2?" And we're like, "I don't know. We have way more coming."
Did it shock you?
It's hard. We talk about it often as a cast because I think we've become desensitized to the things we shoot, or even just like some of the themes in the show. So I think it hits us more when we see other people's reactions to it.
So, there's this other thing that's happening in the show where there's this magical stump. Okay. There's this magical stump. People have visions of it. And Nat's found it with, the snow seems to be melted around it. Javi's drawn the roots under it. Your character imagines it. What can you tell us about the mysterious stump? Is it an altar?
This is a tricky one to do without spoilers. I will say, without saying too much, that it does play a bigger role later in the season, and probably next season too.
Stumps are important.
Stumps are important in the wilderness.
So we've also seen your character make some blood sacrifices in both timelines. We've even seen the adult, Lottie. She cuts her hand open and she really pleads with the wilderness. So what's it like to shoot those scenes? Like, you have handled a prop bear heart.
Yes, I've done a prop bear heart. I've been covered to look like I'm hypothermic. Yeah, it's always really interesting and fun. I love working with the prop department, and they do such an amazing job on our show. But yeah, anytime we're covered in blood a lot of times on this show. But yes, that it does add like a darker, deeper element with the sacrifice and the cutting, especially for Lottie, because it can mean a few things.
Right, she's giving of herself.
What
does she believe that she's doing? Is it truly a sacrifice of part of herself?
I think it stems from a few places, and I talked with Omni, one of our writers, about this. I think she's so desperate and doesn't really know what to do, and I think it's partly stems from that. And I also think it stems from her being so overwhelmed and emotional that it almost comes from a self-harm place. There's a few choices this season with Lottie that I think are products of her not trusting herself and where that puts her mentally.
Well, her mental state, we've seen it explored a lot. There was also the scene early on where she was in shock therapy. What was that like to shoot? Was that disturbing?
I mean, yeah, it was kind of crazy. We shot it in an abandoned, I think it used to be a medical center, and I don't know if you use the term psych ward anymore, but in our show we do. But yeah, it was interesting to be kind of by myself and out of the wilderness and kind of starting up this new timeline that we haven't seen yet. But it was a tiresome day. I think I threw my back out a bit. But yeah, it was interesting to see a glimpse of where Lottie is headed to, because I don't know the in-between of what happens before that, really.
Right, and adult Lottie just refers to it very benignly as my time away. There's something I learned in my time away.
Yeah, painting in a loony bin.
She's kind of putting maybe a little spin on it herself, like, I chose to go there. That was my decision. So, also in this episode, Javi speaks for the first time. He speaks to Coach, because Coach is looking at the drawing that I mentioned of the stump with the roots. And we hear Javi speak, and he says, she told me not to come back. So I'm like, is this she someone he met? Is this she Mother Nature? Is this she one of the girls? Who is this she out there? Is she the Antler Queen we saw coming onto the plane?
I think this is a hard one to talk about. I think this will be an idea of a person that maybe we'll get to see later on. Maybe not this season.
This episode ended with Shauna screaming in pain. She's going to labor. The premiere ended, or there was a scene in the premiere with you screaming, your character screaming when they were rescued. There was a really brief shot of them sort of. These screams, do they kind of unite these characters? Tell me about just these kind of screams into the void.
I know we do all have like a little scream moment. I think it maybe just stems from the animalistic side of them, the desperation, the trauma, just having no other way out. But it does seem like every character has lets it out at some point.
Yeah, they definitely do. Well, I'm also wondering, we know Shauna's going into labor at the end of this scene. Can you say anything about what to expect? I mean, Lottie's very excited about this baby.
She is really excited. I think she's also really nervous, and I think the rest of the group feels the pressure of what's about to happen. No one really knows how birth goes and how it goes in the wilderness with no doctors and no medical experience. So I think going to episode 6, there's that heaviness weighing in the air of what's going to happen and how do we get through this.
Right. Is there one person who you think, is most level-headed, who's most likely to handle the situation well? Can Coach handle it?
I don't think Coach can handle it. I don't think many of us actually can handle it very well. This might be crazy, but it might be Shauna that keeps her head on the most.
Well, it's her baby.
It is her baby, but you would hope people around you would also be level-headed. But yes, I think it brings out a lot in each character, and yes, a bit crazy.
And I will say, after episode 2, everyone was very concerned about Coach Ben. A lot of fans were very concerned about him being next on the menu. And he's really Lottie seems to have kind of replaced him as the leader of the group. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think the group has decided to ignore the fact that he's the only adult out there now, and maybe holds that against him. I think Lottie has more sway than he does. Yeah, Lottie's relationship to her leadership is interesting, because I don't think it's as set in stone as she's the leader forever of the group.
Right. Well, I did want to talk about this too in the present day. That we talked about the scene before between Natalie and Lottie as adults. And, Nat says that we brought something back with us from the wilderness. We brought back something, and it's bad. It's in us now. Is that a literal thing, or is it more of a psychological thing?
I think it could be taken both ways. I tend to lean, it's hard because I can be convinced both ways, but I tend to lean towards more the, what have we done out there? We have become these people and we can't undo what we've done. So I think it's the darkness within them. But who knows? There might be a little ghost or entity following us all around in the present day.
Who's to say? And it's very carefully written that a character like Ty will say, hey, Lottie cured me of my nightmares, but I don't know if I believe that it's magic or if I just wanted to be cured. She says that in the episode, to paraphrase her. So
yeah, I think it's interesting that there are the people that follow Lottie and believe in it, and I think it's hard because I don't even know if Lottie knows 100% what she has gotten herself into and what she is reaching for. But I love the layers of each character having their own opinion on what's going on with Lottie and what she's preaching.
Who is she closest to this season, would you say?
I think Lottie's always kind of been a bit of a lone wolf. I think even going back to the pilot and being in school, I think she was liked by everyone, and I think she has this energy that draws people towards her. But I think when you're someone that doesn't trust your own brain, you're kind of reaching to other people to make other people happy and to see what's going on with them. So I would say, even though she has got some loyal supporters this season, in the 90s timeline, I still think she mostly thinks of herself as a lone wolf.
Okay. And Courtney, did you do any research this season to play her, knowing that she's going to be taking on more of this role, being more of this sort of priestess? What did you do?
No, I didn't. And I talked to Bart and Ashley about it, and I think maybe more so for Simone, because that's a world where she's having to live in and inhabit. Lottie hasn't reached that point yet, and I think she's learning as she goes. And some of the scenes that come up later in the season, or might have been earlier on, where she's figuring out the prayer circles, I didn't want to think about them too much because she is learning as she goes. And I think if it was already set in stone now, there's not much she can go forward with.
It's interesting though, because it's the 90s, and I remember the 90s. I mean, I took yoga, but there wasn't like this infusion of spirituality through our culture in the same way as there is now. So watching it, part of me says, where did she get this stuff?
I think she's a person that's incredibly in tune with emotions and those around her, and even herself. I think she's an empath. And I think she just has so much going on. And I think when you're an emotional person, you tend to look inwards a lot, and maybe sometimes not for the best. So you're always looking for solutions, and maybe that's just how it manifested in her.
Okay, well, she's pretty good at it. I mean, she's stopping Kai's nightmares. I mean, she's just like working with what she's got. What do you hear out here in the wilderness?
Yeah, I mean, well, how long have they been stuck out there now? So it's all she got to think about, really.
Yeah, that's true. Quite a while. Anything else you want to mention about this episode, or playing her? I don't know if there's any fun behind the scenes stuff of what's challenging or doing any kind of.
I mean, it was really interesting to dive into the side of Lottie that is kind of forcing herself upon Shauna to be this protector. And I just love working with Sophie Elise, and like we lived together in season 2. So
you were roommates.
We were roommates, yeah. And yeah, she's one of my best friends. So we were already sending each other places for season 3, being like, I don't know when we're going, but this house, we should live here. But yeah, I think it is a really fun episode that sets it up for 6. And Sophie does an incredible job in episode 6. And I think, yeah, people just need to buckle up. It's going to get more and more intense, for better or for worse.
Well, thank you for the heads up on that. We will do that. We will follow your directions. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for joining the Buzz on Yellow Jackets to talk about episode 5.
Awesome. Thank you so much.